In Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. And Cayman Airways, call them on 949-2311 to book your nonstop flights to Los Angeles and Panama. And Digicel, Cayman's bigger, better network.
Oh, I think they're doing a great job. A lot of them are.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you?
Not too bad, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today with Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Another thoughtful Thursday's edition of Talk Today, as we invite you to be a part of the discussion, is going to be open line. Hey, 949-8037, 949-6990. Of course, the toll-free number is there for you. We'll remind you, but it's 1-800-534-8255. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255. Courtesy of Flow,
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. 949-8037, 949-6990. Toll free if you wish to use that option. With the compliments of Flow at 1-800-534-8255. And then, of course, you can WhatsApp 925-3261. You can call it and we'll answer it. You can message, you can, we'll read it. You can send a voice note and we'll play it. Hey, it's about listening. And I'm reminded, I think it's a saying accredited, to someone else. It says when you talk, you can only, repeat what you know. When you listen, you might hear something you didn't. Sometimes that's important. The willingness to listen. And active listening can be taxing. But you have to ask the question with the genuine intent and interest of wanting to hear the answer with great respect. Many of us are just polite and we say, hey, how you doing? But that's mid-step. And before they can answer good, not only are we reading our cards and speeding away, but we're going so far with the, breeze at our backs, we're like on the full sail. And then sometimes, you want to know how a person is, but in your mind, they're a complaining spirit, always negative, and there's nothing good under the sun in their eyes. But maybe it's because sometimes we fail to appreciate how they see life, and through their lens. It might be, if you were listening earlier to Doc and the Bob Marley song, they might have draw bad card, he say, it just might be. But how do we shuffle the deck? Sometimes you just need a new dealer, sometimes you just need a new pack, and sometimes, you just need a new environment. Cayman has been that for many, but perhaps for some, it's many from a field as opposed to, across the street. Our unwillingness to give our own, not just a second chance, but sometimes a first chance. Our unwillingness to look at our own and say, you know what, boy, you had a bad, and then you can fill in the blank from generation to generation. And sometimes it's of our own doing. But if we give up, what then happens? I've always been mindful that it isn't, the fall is the failure to get up that determines whether we will at least have another opportunity to try. And it's not always easy to get up. Many of our people would have, heard it said often, you make your bed, you lie in it. And it's true. But if you never knew how to make your bed, or if you never shown a better way, or if sometimes you don't have the extra help. Think of the situation where those of us have had a father figure. Now, you can pick me up on it when I say I'm not talking about the wonderful mothers and the other ladies in life who try to fill the role, but a father, a man who is there to love and to nurture and to show you what loving and nurturing looks like. Whether it's happen to swing a hammer, a saw, a piece of 2x4, how to tie a knot to throw out your line to fish, as you bait the hook to pull it in, to skin clean and otherwise fry. Or sometimes just chats with you. And then little that is said, much is conveyed. But we are not always there. And it's probably partly us as the adult that is so busy, so occupied and preoccupied, and otherwise predisposed that we no longer have in our minds sufficient time. Maybe we don't appreciate the importance of it. So, as we think about what lies ahead on this wonderful day in this month of July, well, what's on your mind, and share your thoughts and take us down. You may want to commend our policing. And recently, we know for those of us who visit, certain communities because that's where our closest friends are, or we only traverse through them because we see them as a shortcut, or perhaps we live in there. It's not about a policing apparatus that is heavily resourced with personnel, equipment, and other resources, but it's a community that comes together to ensure that items like littering, like wayward and unleashed dogs, to the way we sort of conduct ourselves in our own spaces, behind our fences and in our yards or on our back porches, that impact the wider community. And it isn't about people necessarily all acting in a sort of robotic form where there's no thinking and talking. To the contrary, it's the heavily engaged in interactions that allow us to appreciate the differences, but it's with a sense of healthy respect. So, as we complain and lament about the woes of the world, as we castigate politicians and pastors and many others who seemingly fail to take up the mantle, who acts for a sense of responsibility but deny the accountability, maybe we can find that it isn't only them that are to blame. Perhaps it is our own failures for offering up ourselves as well. So 949-8837, 1-800-534-8255. You can WhatsApp 925-3261. You can also call that number if you so choose. You can take, whatever option you wish, to get your thoughts with us. And now, a number of, individuals in recent times have questioned where we are in a society, and from the perspective of behaviors that once were seemingly against the law, or at least against the social norms. Now, with great respect to her, Miss Daphne Orrit, the former parliamentarian, championed some of our decency laws relative to the way not just our visitors, but the way we as people would traverse our streets. There was an expectation that we would be clothed, and for some of us, and again, this may cause a few to turn up their eyebrows and others to maybe, be unable to withhold that little curl of a smile that, creaks in the corner sometimes. But we may see people dressed in a way and we go, wow, that's a good sight to behold. God's creation at its finest. I saw a gentleman the other day. He was taking a very early afternoon run, and his physique was certainly inspiring. The abs were there, the definition. Now, it doesn't make me any other way than to say, if that's a sign of fitness, that physique is one that maybe we aspire. It may not be yours. I'm told that round is a shape, and being in a seated position is still some sort of exercise, because you gotta get up at some point to refill your bowl of ice cream. But what about other ways that we may walk publicly in our streets. Should it be the cultural norm? Not because there is some law that is or isn't being enforced that may or may not have a sanction, but because it's the cultural norm and we all do it. But should that cultural norm also extend to where we put our litter? We just don't toss it along the roadside or carry it somewhere on a vacant land and dump it, out of sight, out of mind. And then what about people? Remember way back when there were constant expressions of concern from many, especially the business community, of people who would come into the country as quote unquote traveling salesmen, and they would come in and they'll bring their samples and their wares, and they would knock on the doors and they would try to apply their trade to people who may, in the term that perhaps some may be more familiar, the panhandlers. They walk through the parking lots, they somewhere along some busy thoroughfare trying to sell and apply their wares. Are those laws on our books? Are they enforceable? Are they being enforced? Is it again a cultural norm that we may find that there's no reason anymore to enforce it because we're in the 21st century looking towards the 25th? But what about the sale of foods from vehicles? Not the licensed vehicle that hopefully is being inspected and run in a sanitary way. Not even the individual from whom we have great respect as a great cook, but just out of safety and liability issues and perhaps a sense of civility, has prepared a meal, has taken it to an open parking lot, a construction site, a beach area, and somewhere, and we all know and we feel comfortable and we go and we purchase it. But is there an issue relative to the safety? Should there be concerns about the safety and the hygiene and the preparation as also as the presentation of the foods? There are those who would say, well, government has denied the licensing fees and the like. Then there are those who say, well, wait a minute, I've paid my license, my insurance, and all the other overheads, and here's a person that can come maybe every day, maybe once a week, maybe every other week, and maybe on intermittent days within the week or the month, so that they're not so much on the radar. Well, should those things be allowed? Should there be a space where people like that can go, a food market for want of a better term, and every Thursday evening you can go again, perhaps properly manage, whether there's a fee to pay to be a part of it, but there's some sort of expectation that the food preparation would have been done in a place where food hygiene and food handling and the like been properly vetted, inspected, and otherwise reasonable semblance that there be some standards of safety. Well, progressive, advancing, maturing democracy may dictate that those things are the norm. But then again, a society that is so caught up in trying to keep its head above water may find that the only thing that's important for them is their survival today, because literally tomorrow they may not know where the next meal may come. They may not even know where they may lay their heads tonight. Now, is that the society that we are in? Is that the one that we are heading to? Is it the blame of the government, whether that's elected, appointed, or otherwise? Or is that the collective blame of us all and our unwillingness to consciously act? Well, much to talk about on a Thoughtful Thursday. So as we pause and take this first break, you can call and chastise, you can call and compliment, you can say, oh boy, that's a good job. You can call and compliment with the E and say, let me join you in sharing this thought. And that's the compliment that I would like for you to weigh in and join alongside and be a part of our discussion. Then take us to a space and a place where we know we can get to by working together. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
It's a 24-karat summer with Digicel. In honor of our first truly COVID-free summer, Digicel is giving away $24,000. Be one of 10 to win $2,400 this July. For a chance to win, all you have to do is switch to Digicel, activate a Prime bundle, or simply pay your bill on time. It's that easy. It takes 2 minutes to get $2,400 richer. Make the choice to win today and visit a Digicel store near you.
How can you make a classic BLT sandwich even better? Well, by adding tuna. The land meets the sea in Subway's new sandwich, the Tuna BLT, available for a limited time. The Tuna BLT is exploding with flavor. Imagine crispy, juicy bacon strips on top of tuna, fresh lettuce, and slices of tomato, topped with your favorite sauce and choice of freshly baked bread. Enjoy the best of both worlds with the Tuna BLT from Subway. Subway, eat fresh.
CUC Advisory. Customers are advised of a scheduled outage on Wednesday, July 19th between 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. for Hope Drive, Strawberry Drive, Optic Way, and Wicker Lane off Smith Road in Georgetown. For more information, please contact CUC's customer service team at 949-5200 or email service@cuc.ky.
Wouldn't it have been grand if you had purchased land 30 years ago? It may not be 2020, but a perfect vision has never been more clear. Cayman Brac and Little Cayman, poised for growth with an eye on the future. Your land, your history, your future. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. Thanks for joining us. 949-8037, 949-6990. Toll free at 1-800-534-8255. And of course, you can WhatsApp. If you are in a space, in a place where the data is on somebody else, whether because you have your own internet connection, the Wi-Fi is there, or, you have it, well, use that, 925-3261. We want to hear from you. And I'll ask all of us who are listening, especially if with the co-workers, the family members, the spouses in particular, and the siblings of the person calling, or if you think you recognize the person, or if you're, a senior member in an organization, whether it's a public sector or private sector, that person is calling, commend them for being willing to share a thought. You don't have to agree with what they're saying. And if you actually disagree with them, maybe call after and say, listen, Susie just called in and she said, red is red and brown is brown. But I tell you the truth, I don't think that she's gone to ground just yet. We need to have a discussion, not with the intent of creating any ill will, but with the intent of being thought-provoking and challenging, well, it's good, but can it be better? Not better because you're making more bank, but better because think back to, again, you have perhaps heard, I know I have, and I try to subscribe to it, a little learning is a dangerous thing. I don't know that we all appreciate it sometimes. So I like to enjoy reading sometimes, and when I read something and I don't know exactly what it is that I understood it properly, I'll read it again. Then I may call a couple of people and say, listen, just read this thing. It could be an account of some historical event. It could be some sort of supposition that someone said, what if this was like that? It may be even the published account of some, survey or some research or the like. Don't know that I always understand it. Maybe you're one of those who do and have the ability to understand everything you encounter. Good for you. Teach us so that we too can learn. And then you speak to another person and they give you a perspective on it. And you go, okay, I didn't quite get that. I don't know if I agree. It's the wonderful thing about the economists and economics. You can have multiple different competing views, and they all, when presented properly, can be compelling. Now, are we willing to do that? Well, I think we are. So let's hear from you. 949-8037, 949-6990. Toll free with the compliments of flow at 1-800-534-8255. Or you can WhatsApp 925-3261. Now, there is no question that in this country, there is at least the perception of wealth. Now, that may be for many of us, that may be for all of us. It may be that we've ignored, the statistics, and it's only for a few of us. It may be that 1% of the society control 99% of everything. It may be that 99% of the society has it all, and only 1%. But the reality is that there are some who don't have at all, who may not have sufficient. The question, to what extent are we looking and being able to help? So back to my reading. Plato would talk about, in today's verbiage, equal and unfettered access to things like perhaps education and healthcare, but education in particular. Now, do we even have that? Are those considered public goods that are shared, through the state's funding, the public's acquiescence of the allocation of its resources to ensure that education isn't just academic, that we're not only instructing our future teachers and engineers and educators and doctors, but every facet isn't, just giving a name so that it sounds good and placates, our consciousness, but is actually valued for what it is. I love cars. It's nothing like having a family member who knows even more and can pull the car apart, and you can hear that little miss, as we would say it, and they can find that, because their ears are attuned to it. Now you can sit and chat and just enjoy and learn, even with the fandangle cars that they have these days, where you like one of those phones. If you even throw it down, it don't even come apart. After it's used, it's designed to be discarded. Sadly, a throwaway society. But that mechanic, whether it's the diesel mechanic, the marine mechanic, the auto mechanic, the ability to pull down a big piece of machinery, or whether it's your little, delicate little car that, you can barely fit inside, put a second person with you and there's no space. Well, that takes skill. And take the carpenter. You want to get our door hung properly and not just shim, but he has that fit perfectly. Now you will appreciate, coming home and knowing that, when you go take a shower, the water's running, there's no leaks. Or if 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, you wake and there's a burst pipe, and you have someone that is not only available, but is competent and responsive and can come out. And before you have, another swimming pool somewhere in your upstairs or your downstairs, or it's flooded the whole house and destroyed everything, this thing is resolved. Well, that level of appreciation that we have at that point should be the same level of appreciation we have all the time. But do we? So let's look at the wealth in our society, and let's ask ourselves the question: are there issues of crime, and can they be solved? Are there issues of homelessness, and are we doing anything about it? And is it that we're expecting our charities? Is it that we're expecting our governments? And even with the charitable endeavors, is that a sign that the society is wealthy if its charitable giving is so benevolent, so altruistic? Or is it a better sign if there's no need, for those charities, from the perspective of providing food or clothing or housing or the like? Now, as I sit here and think, I'm inspired by DJ Lynn, not just his dance moves, but his constant reminder that life is about giving. And if he would allow, as he waves to me through the looking glass, as it were, that our involvement in service clubs isn't just about the good feeling that we actually get, that we celebrate with our members, and that we use as an example to inspire our children or our siblings or our friends, but it's about understanding that a wealth of a nation is its people helping each other. Again, it's not just about charity, it's about appreciating that we all could use help. I remember on many occasions, even publicly, having a discussion relative to the word at risk, that phrase that we would ascribe mostly to young people from whom we look at their home environment and we cast aspersions indirectly. We obviously operate under preconceived notions. But from my perspective, all our young people are at risk. We're all at risk. Some, understandably, maybe more so because they don't have that level of nurturing and love and compassion and care and concern that some may have, not just from a parent or parents or extended family members, but they just seem to have, been left to beat their own path. But are they not at risk? And what about that young adult, has done relatively well in school, may even, finish, tertiary education, maybe into a career. But if that young professional is being guided, mentored by someone who's more competent, more experienced, but has integrity and humility and ethics, wouldn't that young person at some point at least have the example of what a person should do and how they should do it, and at the very least be cognizant of what is quote unquote right and wrong? Well, I have much to share, but I'm certainly more inclined to listen. So let's hear from you. 949-8837, 949-6990, WhatsApp 925-3261, or toll free 1-800-534-8255. When we come back, we want to ask, we've got a couple of messages in the last few days about the proliferation of people who are increasingly, and there's no other word to use. Maybe you can help me to find a much more impactful way to say it, but it are increasingly begging, not the person only who may have some ailment, who may have reached a certain age and no longer employed or can be employed long term. Maybe someone who had a substance abuse issue, maybe someone we've concluded, well, that person is where that person is because of that person's bad choices and decisions. But what are we doing about it? What can we do about it? So the issue of begging, what do we do? Give us a shout. Give us some thought to it. Call us after the break.
You know, as a little girl, I dreamt of traveling to faraway places and foreign lands. I tell you what though, no more dreaming. This summer, I going flying with Cayman Airways. How blessed are we in the Cayman Islands to have a very own national airline. Girl, you can fly to so many international destinations without the hassle of connecting flights. On top of Jamaica, Cuba, and Honduras, you got non-stop flights from Cayman to New York, Miami, Tampa, and even Denver, Los Angeles, and now Panama. Going to be a little cafe con leche and Hollywood Squares for this old gal this summer.
Make your travel dreams come true with Cayman Airways, offering non-stop flights for non-stop adventures in Panama, LA, and many more places in between. For details and to book, call 949-2311, contact a travel agent, or visit CaymanAirways.com.
Hey, is your phone slow, overheating, and dropping important calls? Don't fret. This summer, it's time to flip out with Digicel. Introducing the all-new Samsung Flip 4 with its sleek design and cutting-edge features. You'll flip into the summer in style and confidence. This summer, you can grab the all-new Samsung Flip 4, all just for $145. Flip into the summer with Digicel. Visit a Digicel store near you and grab the all-new Samsung Flip 4 and the amazing 7-day Prime Ultra plan today.
You know you've dreamed of that Mercedes, the smooth leather, the style, luxury that feels so good. Ooh la la. With the prestigious 2023 Mercedes-Benz GLA 200 up for grabs in this year's Lions Club of Grand Cayman Benzorama fundraiser. This is your chance to make that dream come true. Tickets are $25 for one, 3 for $65, or 5 for $100. Benzorama fundraiser tickets are available with Lions Club members and various sales outlets. The Lions Club of Grand Cayman Benzorama fundraiser supports numerous community initiatives, includes sightseeing, Christmas deliveries, restoration, and social services.
The STEPS 2023 National Health Survey is now in full swing, and the Ministry of Health and Wellness would like to thank the community for their ongoing support of this endeavor. Participants who have completed Steps 1 and 2 of the survey are reminded to complete Step 3 by Sunday, July the 31st. Any survey participant needing additional support or information can contact mhwsteps@gov.ky or call 936-4969.
But I do have some questions.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thanks for joining us. It is open line 949-8037, or toll free the compliments of Flo at 1-800-534-8255. Let's take this call. Hey, welcome. Thank you for calling.
Hi, Dwayne.
Hey, how are you today?
I'm doing good, thank you. I wasn't sure what the topic was today.
The topic is of your choosing. It's open line. We can talk about anything.
That's good. Well, I'd like to open the floor for the discussion on landlord and tenant and rental.
Good idea. Wow.
Yes, and hope that as many people that have approached me about this issue, that they'll call into the show and voice and express their concerns. It's an issue that's very, very close to my heart. I've advocated for legislative changes in landlord and tenancy laws for many, many years, probably about 17, 18 years.
Wow.
And I'm not sure if you've done any looking into what's going on in terms of checking out the market, but there's, of course, we're concerned about the uncontrollable increase in rental rates, and the fact that landlords are now trying to say that they're not going to rent to people. Well, it's a trend now where landlords and property owners do not want to rent to people with children. In a way, you can kind of understand that, but also to anyone that has NAU. I implore to NAU to perhaps listen to the show, and I'm not sure if they're working on anything in regards to how they assist clients, but I know one of the reasons landlords and property managers do not want to accept NAU is because the office takes a long period of time to make payments. I think a 30-day turnaround period to pay to property owners and landlords would be something that NAU should consider. But I just want to open the floor for the discussion because it's such a major issue, and I'm so passionate about it that I can't even find the words right now as I continue to talk to you.
Well, as I listen to you, I mean, if you have time, because it is a topic worth discussing, it can be emotive, and even the most objective of us may want to try to see both sides. So if you have time, we can engage in a few minutes if you wish.
Yes,
okay.
So, definitely.
And I think NAU now is going to be rebranded as the Department of Financial Assistance, something along those lines, right?
Right, I did hear that, yes.
But that aside, maybe a couple of questions. If a property owner decides, this is my property, this is the amount of rent that I want for it, and these are the conditions that I'm going to put in the tenancy agreement. Now, there's a difference between a lease agreement and a tenancy agreement, right?
Right. Yeah.
Should that not be acceptable? What do you think? I mean, should we dictate what?
I think property owners do have a right. I believe property owners and property managers, because there's property owners and then there's some property owners recruit property managers to manage their properties. I do believe, legally speaking and socially speaking, they do have a right to implement certain conditions around their properties. I can, in a sense, understand the position against persons with children because, we talk about damages to property and that sort of thing. However, it is such a trend that it's almost becoming an epidemic where if you look at almost every ad on I won't call any
But fair enough.
Yeah.
But let me ask though. If we're saying no children, what are we doing for pets? I mean, dogs, cats, and whatever else. Are we excluding those too? Or are we saying, you can bring your dog, but you can't bring your child?
Right, yes. And I think people are more controlled with pets, but I've seen the trend now too where, there's no control really, and I've advocated for, there's a landlord tenancies law that was passed in 2009 that had been sitting on the shelf.
Mm-hmm.
I call it sitting on the shelf for about 14 years. So I have advocated for that to be reviewed and modernized, and I know our premier is very passionate, at least to me, with our conversations and bringing about modernized reform for landlord and tenant issues to give some relief, not only for tenants but also for landlords. And I implore that they find some solution also for renters. They just released a statement yesterday that they were finding solutions for homeowners in terms of utilities and that sort of thing. There's so many different dynamics to go with this landlord and tenant issue, but yeah, we have I've seen ads that say no pets either.
Yeah. What about no smoking allowed in this unit? I'm just thinking, should the property owner be able to impose conditions or create clauses that they say, listen, to use this place, this is the license, then these are the conditions. So you can't smoke in the bedroom, you have to smoke outside, you can't smoke in the house, whatever it is. I mean, should those be also accepted, or should there be things that you're free to use it as you want because it's yours?
No, I don't think it should be that. Certainly not, because people's property is their property. It's as if they're renting a property, and it's as if it's their own home, or whoever's renting it's their own home, but it still doesn't belong to them. So I don't believe it's wrong for landlords to impose certain restrictions on their property because they have to protect their investments, right?
Okay.
But if we have it as a trend where 99% of the ads that you see are saying no children, no NAU, where does that leave our residents that are in the market to rent, especially Caymanians? You would not believe the amount of Caymanians that have approached me, even residents, we call it permanent residents too, but I'm going to speak about Caymanians because it's a problem for Caymanians right now to not find housing.
At some point, if you wish, I mean, those listening may or may not recognize, you may or may not appreciate your willingness to champion this as you have shared for so long. I don't want to belabor it, but at some point, if you would be inclined, those modernizations that you see that to make the law a little more contemporary. One or 2 points you want to share that you think needs to be addressed?
Well, I think there needs to be some form of rent control, and that in itself, I know people is going to have a hard time with, because again, people are going to feel, well, you can't dictate to us what the value of our property is for us to put it on the market for rent. But there definitely has to be some form of rent control, especially in certain areas and with the conditions of certain places. One recommendation I made was to ensure that any place that's for rent is in a habitable condition.
Right.
It has access to bathroom facilities. It has access to cooking facilities. It has access to a stove where people can cook and maintain themselves.
Right.
And and another recommendation I had, if law enforcement is moving from, well, anyway, I won't get into that one, but let's look for generalization. There needs to be a grievance board, for landlord-tenant issues. To me, that is very huge, because at this present time, landlords nor tenants have anywhere to go to address any issues. I have spoken to many people, and I found that landlords are saying, hey, these people didn't pay rent for 3 months and they just up and moved out of my place. I gave them a break to, with the deposit, and now the landlord is left having
Right.
to deal with those things in their pockets, as well as tenants say, hey, I've paid a deposit and I can't get this done, I can't get that done, and they have nowhere to go besides to go to small claims court. And of course, a lot of people don't have money to go to small claims court, even though it's a minimal amount to do that. But
you sparked some interest. We got a couple of callers too. They may or may not weigh in, but as you talked about rent control, what about changing the system that we call a mortgage, but it's no more than a demand loan, right? So if you own a property because you've secured financing from a bank, and your interest rate fluctuates sometimes by the direction of the wind, it would seem like in recent times. If your mortgage is not a fixed mortgage as a mortgage is, maybe you can be left holding the bag, right?
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Sorry, finish.
No.
One thing I have found, and this is from my personal experience with people sharing with me, is that many times when they've gone for a mortgage, it hasn't been explained to them about a fixed rate mortgage. So they take the mortgage at the rate because it may be the lowest rate available now, but it's not properly explained to them. And this is only, like I said, my experience with people talking to me about their experience.
Right.
And when the rate goes up, as it has been doing over the last year and a half, then of course mortgage rates go up. And that shows a lot of people. Another thing that I wanted to talk about that I mentioned last Thursday night at the Boundaries Commission meeting was the fact, I don't know which government implemented this, but the fact that immigration apparently has made an indication that anyone that buys property or invests in property in the Cayman Islands is can apply for permanent residence, right? And so I've seen where people have gone out and purchased property. I mean, it's almost like a mass thing that was done, and in order to qualify for permanent residence, and that in itself also has taken Caymanians out of the market for purchasing home, for becoming homeowners, because now we have all these people that want it. And I'm not against anyone becoming a permanent resident of our island. I welcome different people to our islands, and it helps to function as a society, to have variety and different persons from different geographical areas and so forth. But we are only so big as a geographical area. So
I think what you're saying, what you're saying, I think should resonate with us in that, as I interpret much of what you share, and you're asking us to be very conscious of what Cayman is, what it's looking like it might become, from the crime to the question of housing to the cost of living. So is it then that we who live here aren't paying attention?
I think we're paying attention, but I think that people, our Caymanians and our I'm going to venture to say our voters who has a voice and can make a difference, are not advocating for themselves enough. They're not approaching their MPs enough and saying, hey, we want this done. We want to see this happening. We put you here. We want you to get out and speak for us and have a voice for us. And the reason why I brought up the point of permanent residence and property ownership is because by that happening to me, it's a domino effect of why the rental market has gone up to such a high meter, because now Caymanians can no longer become as easily homeowners, not just because of not just because of the economic situation in the world right now, but if we have such a small geographical location such as ours, and then we say to people, okay, if you want to qualify for permanent residence, you have to buy a piece of land, or you have to buy a home. And those people that have been here for years and want to be a permanent resident, they go out and they qualify for these homes, marketing Caymanians out of that market. And all of a sudden, then Caymanians have to go out and rent, right? And half of the time, most Caymanians, I call them working class Caymanians or minimum wage Caymanians, and half of the time they are not able to qualify for these homes, because now everything has risen, and we are left feeling as though we're a minority in our own country.
Yeah.
You know, and it, like I said, it has, I want to be clear, it has nothing to do with having immigrants or, you know, I don't like to
It's our
use the word
policies, right?
expat,
That's what you're saying. It's
you
our,
know,
it's our policies, and maybe our inability to look long term and appreciate the socioeconomic impact. Respectful though, call back as much, despite your platform. If you ever have a desire to engage in even more discourse, please feel free to hit me up, either in person or in the studio, is what I mean, right?
Absolutely, Dean. Thank you very much for taking the call, and I hope my comments are taken for the purpose in which I presented them, and not misinterpreted in any way to be prejudicial against any people or anything in that way.
They were thought provoking, and I think people could hear the consciousness. So thank you for that.
Thank you too, Dwayne.
Talk to you soon.
Afternoon.
You too.
Bye-bye.
All right, let's pause and take a quick break. Come back and join any and every caller who wishes to be a part of the discussion. Stay tuned.
Today's biggest news.
Radio K-Man. Your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio K-Man's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
The headline news is brought to you by Health Services Authority.
The Department of Labor and Pensions announces the annual disbursement of funds under a retirement savings arrangement has increased from $12,900 to $14,125 a year. That is a 9.5% increase. The National Pensions Act permits members to access their pension benefit at retirement, either through an annuity or an RSA, and the amount a person can withdraw annually is calculated according to the member's age and account value. In international headlines, no fingerprints or DNA turned up on the baggie of cocaine found in a lobby at the White House last week, despite a sophisticated FBI crime lab analysis, and surveillance footage of the area didn't identify a suspect. That's according to a summary of the Secret Service investigation obtained by the Associated Press. There are no leads on who brought the drugs into the building. U.S. Secret Service agents found the white powder during a routine White House sweep on July 2nd in a heavily trafficked West Wing lobby, where staff go in and out and tour groups gather to drop their phones and other belongings. The gunman who killed 11 people at a Pittsburgh synagogue in 2018 is eligible for the death penalty. A federal grand jury announced today, setting the stage for further evidence and testimony on whether he should be sentenced to death or life in prison. The government is seeking capital punishment for Robert Bowers, who raged against Jewish people online before storming the Tree of Life synagogue with an AR-15 rifle and other weapons in the U.S.'s deadliest anti-Semitic attack. The jury agreed with the prosecutors that Bowers, who spent 6 months planning the attack and has since expressed a regret that he didn't kill more people, had formed the requisite legal intent to kill. Bowers' lawyers argue his ability to form intent is impaired by mental illness and a delusional belief that he could stop the genocide of white people by killing Jews who help immigrants. Those are your headlines. From Radio K-Man's newsroom, I'm April Cummings.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio K-Man on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio K-Man app or log on radiokman.gov.ky.
The headline news are brought to you by Health Services Authority.
It's one of the best moments of your life when you welcome your baby into the world. The HSA's experienced women's health and maternity team provides the highest quality of care throughout your pregnancy and delivery. As a JCI accredited hospital, we are the leader in maternal care, safely delivering over 700 babies annually. Visit hsa.ky for more information. At HSA, we are committed to caring for you.
Radio K-Man is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette brought to you by the Ministry of District Administration and Lands. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands.
In 1895, the ship the Prince Frederick wrecked on the south coast of Cayman Brac, carrying the young sailor Samuel Sidney Saunders. Saunders would later choose to remain in the Sister Islands, eventually marrying into a Caymanian family. Although not highly educated himself, Saunders was instrumental to the education system of the Sister Islands, having taught in both Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. He would start a private school in Little Cayman, was district constable of the Sister Islands, and opened a school in State Bay following the 1932 storm. In the 1930s, the school was attended by Captain Charles Kirkernel. Ironically, Captain Kirkernel's father attended Saunders School in Little Cayman a generation earlier.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette brought to you by the Ministry of District Administration and Lands. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. It is Open Line. The caller prior to the news was talking about, rents and rent control and landlords and tenants. And we've got a couple of points to share with you, but let's take this call. Welcome. Good afternoon. Thank you for calling.
Hi, Sterling. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you today?
I'm good. Sitting on my porch, enjoying the cool breeze on the bus.
Well, I mean, two more words from you and I could almost pen a country song. Just saying.
Anyways, of course, you know me. That was one of my pet peeves for years. The rent situation in the country, and yes, they. This is what I don't really grasp with our government. They put a law in place. Now I know they took the time to put the law together before they brought it to the House to be approved. Then they put it together. It sat there. It wasn't even enacted. And then finally, I think it was in 2000 and, what year did they enact it? They brought it out in 9, passed it in 9, but didn't enact it. And I think it was 19. Was it 19 or my memory?
Yeah.
I stand to be corrected.
I thought 14, but I'm not sure.
Several years after.
Yeah.
They have been 14, you're right.
Yeah. I'm not sure.
Before they were enacted.
Yeah.
Anyways, and then it requires them to have a commission, like an arbitrator type of thing, a commissioner, to go along with this law or act. And that has not even come to any kind of fruition as yet, or even thought about, or even maybe set aside funds for it. And we're modernizing our country, but we're holding it back, especially in that category where people, they put these sections of the law in the act that talks about putting the deposit on an interest-bearing account and stuff of that nature, but they didn't really structure it well, and that's the problem with the Residential Tenancies Act of 2009 or 11, 12, whatever it is now. That's the problem with the law. It's not been fine-tuned. It was just thrown out because everybody was screaming about it to make us feel like, oh, we've actually done something for you. How many years now? We're in 2023, and still nothing has been addressed in relation to that law, and as far as enforcing it goes, nothing. Now, I'm not going to be like a devil's advocate here or anything, but in relation to all the years that I've done rentals and property management since 1991. There you forgot the years already. Since 1991, I've done that. Over the years, I would say, yes, you've had your share of bad tenants, both on permits, both new Caymanians, there's been a variety of people that have been bad tenants. I've had to evict a company out of a rental for doing cocaine. I mean, they've been, when I give you notice, I'm coming to inspect. When I walked in the door, the first thing that met me was lines of cocaine, lines of it on the side table, the entry table. I'm just saying, there's been some really horrible tenants, and I have to appreciate why landlords put so many different stipulations in their leases. This is now where that commission would come into play with the Tenancies Act, whereby they would guide you on the proper way of putting the lease together and covering all aspects of good, bad, and evil, if you understand where I'm coming from. And yes, there are those landlords that do nothing for their rentals. I've lived in some the process of moving out away from Grand to Kim and Brack, and they have been horrible, just ridiculous just want the money, don't want to clean the place up, don't want to maintain the place, just want to be grabalicious, grab the money. And that is where the commission would again come into play, as far as putting out inspectors to inspect these rental properties to ensure that slumlords are not actively renting in this country. But there's so many of them. There are a ton of slumlords. Some of them, let me give you an example. I think I might have told you this before, but, we got a lot of new people since that. When Hurricane Ivan hit Sterling, I was managing a property in 7 Mile. The entire complex was trashed. It was a new dive site. The contents were dive sites. It had been washed out. And that owner lived in Italy. And that owner contacted me and told me I still demanded I make that tenant pay rent. And they couldn't live. Where were they going to go? There was nowhere for them to live. There was no power there. There was no contents there. That's the mindset that we need to get pushed out of our country. You can't expect to act like that in a hurricane. Told me they were told by the realtor that sold them that condo that we don't have hurricanes. So I was lying. I was lying about the hurricane. And this is Hurricane Ivan, the Category 5 hurricane that hit and mashed us up to smithereens and Grant. So you have all of these different things, which is why the commission is now to a chronic stage of needing to be implemented. It needs to have the protection for both sides.
Right. But as I listen to you, though, I mean, and we do have some other callers, but I think this is where it becomes an emotive issue, but it also becomes one that, as you said, we're easygoing and we're not willing to ensure that there is a particular accepted cultural ethos that probably once was, right? So to your point, if for instance we have realtors here who don't understand the lay of the land, who are, like landlords use the word you use, grabalicious, right? Or we have property owners who are absentee landlords and only care about the payment and rent receipts, or we have borrowed funds that we think and we've allowed to be termed mortgages, but in that normal accepted word in more developed, mature economies, we know what we have here is, nothing better than a little commercial loan that you probably got on vacation. It's not a mortgage. So with all of that in play, are we needing to look at this landscape more seriously and not ensure that there is this tenancy board that you can go for your grievances? There isn't this understanding that you create a legal contract, and if it's more than 2 years, then it's a tenant. It moves from a tenancy to a lease and it's registered. And duties and the fees and stamp duties and the like are paid on it. That you as landlord and as tenant understand the terms and conditions. Take for instance, a landlord alleges that a tenant hasn't paid rent, is disruptive to the other owners or other occupants in the complex, and through noise or behavior, but for some reason can't be evicted. Now, if those things are alleged, is that a concern?
Well, I mean, you have to have some leverage of disturbance of the peace, because that's in our laws, is it not?
Well, is it enforced? I mean, we have a public nuisance, right?
Under the Communities Act.
Yeah, public nuisances and the like, yeah.
As far as if they're having loud music played and they're argumentative and very loud and constantly, disrupting the peace of everybody else living in there, that's when that law comes into effect. In fact, in my leases, I have actually started to note that law in my lease under one clause, because people need to know. There are people that aren't familiar with that law, and even the police, I've found, don't even know about that law, and it talks about disturbing of the peace, and that is part of it. So, when you're looking at it in a holistic way, it should cover all boundaries, even in a basic neutral sense, but with the understanding and the comprehension that these things are okay or these things are not okay. And if you don't comply, then you get if say for example you're a very loud tenant and you ignore, police come to you and tell you turn down your music, I don't know how many times, and the landlord is now getting, so many complaints from other people in the complex or the strata manager or whatever. Then you should have an option in your lease that gives you 24 hours to kick them out. 24 hours. They have to get out. And if that means you call in the moving company to pack them and move them and charge that fee against their deposit, you do so. Simply because, and they can go to the moving company and pay to collect them out of there. Simply because owners should not have to put up with that kind of behavior. Tenants have a tendency, not all, let's get it right, some bad-minded, rogue, nuisance of a tenant has this mindset that they own the property and they can do what they want. And if it's a strata, they can come and dump their multiple pieces of junk cars on it that can move and whatever. You don't have that right. They need to get that in their mindset. Parents who rent with children don't have the right to allow their children to damage your property either. You have to discipline your kids. Because when I would go in and do my 3-month inspection, and I see where there's holes in the sheetrock and they've broken the bed frame and all this stuff, carry up the deposit or give them 7 days notice to move out. I used to triple it, and that is because it was written in my lease. If damages are seen, because when you move in, I am photographing that place, and you're getting that on the day you moved in. The photograph back, and before you could bulk them up in an email, I would print them out and give them to you in a printout. Here's what this property looked like today before you moved in at 5 o'clock. It's at 3 o'clock today. I took these pictures, It must come back to me in this condition with normal wear and tear. Normal wear and tear is not a big dent in the refrigerator door, broken off cabinet doors, mashed up countertops, dismantled furniture that they've used for other things to build something else with. That is not normal wear and tear. Normal wear and tear is a smudge here and there, or, the lock needs some friggin', WD-40 up in it, so, if it's by the seal. That's normal wear and tear. It's not an excessive damages. And this is, again, why landlords have to put all of these sort of stipulations inside of their leases, because people do not care. Good tenants are rare. When you find them, you treat them like a baby. They're precious. The rest of them that are not good tenants, that wreck your place and then they move out and they leave it in a total mess than what you gave it to them. You would be surprised to know, doctors, lawyers, judges, there are people that do that are bad tenants. Oh yeah, I've had them all during my years of renting and managing in the Cayman Islands. They are some of the worst because they feel because they're paying $5,000 rent a month for a condo on the beach, they can do what they want with it. That's their mindset. And they would have these really raunchy parties and their guests come and just wreck up the place and they're drunken stupors. No, you can't do that. When your name is on the land transfer document or the registration down at Lands and Survey, then you can wreck it any way you want. But that you can't take a rental property and wreck it because you're renting it. You're not paying to wreck it, You're paying rent to live there in harmony and peace and quiet and tranquility and enjoy having a place of residence for you or you and your family. That is why I keep crying in bed in people. So when you get that lease, you read every page of it and initial the bottom, because everything you're reading to and initialing and signing at the end of it is basically saying, I honor all of these clauses. And when you don't and you dishonor one and you get kicked out or you get penalties leveled against you for damages or whatever the case may be, you can't say anything. You've signed to it.
I appreciate you, giving us your perspective, all right?
Yeah, all right.
All right.
Take
Talk to you
care.
soon.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Well, it's good to hear from people. Let's go to the phones and join this next caller. Welcome. Good afternoon. All right. Well, sometimes, we talk, we get engaged, and we don't always able to go back with the sufficient, urgency. So to that last caller or two that could not remain on, we understand you're busy, and if you have time, please call back. Please also accept, our sincerest apology for maybe, being engaged one call longer than you may think is necessary. But we like to listen and hopefully give as much opportunity for everyone. It's not always going to be equally 2 minutes for you and 2 minutes for the next one. Some people can say what they want to say in 2 seconds, like they do other things. And some people may need, take the weekend. 949-8037, 949-6990, 1-800-534-8255. It is open line. Hey, welcome, good afternoon, and thank you for calling.
Good afternoon. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. Good to hear from you, man. How are you today?
I'm excellent.
Always, man.
Listening to some of the conversation there about the tenancy challenges.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that some people believe that if you have regulations, somehow that's just going to sprinkle fairy dust over everything and it's just going to simply be perfect. And that's not going to be the case.
Mm-hmm.
There are a couple of reasons for that. One of them is that if you go to somebody's home and you wreck it, the board is not going to just protect you from the landlord, right? You're going to have an agreement, and if you damage the place, you're going to have to pay. There's no ifs, no ands, no buts, or any supposes about it. And the other problem that I have with some of the representation that's being made is that we need to have rent control. Do you understand that will lead to a housing shortage? Because if you can't provide the place for the price that it's limited to, it's just not going to be available.
Yep.
Who's gonna pay more to receive less on an investment?
You mean besides governments, as the allegation goes?
Yes,
okay.
That's what I mean.
Sorry.
Except government, that's correct.
Sorry, I know some people, boy, that's not funny, but anyway, we laugh at it.
That's reality, actually. But,
yep, it seems so. I mean, that's governments, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is that it sounds simple to say that if your place isn't up to standard, well, which standard are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Do you mean I must have granite countertops? What's the standard that you're going to be talking about? Because that gets very arbitrary.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? And then you're arguing about what kind of fridge I should have or what kind of stove I should have, and then you know what that's going to lead to is the cost of housing being pushed even higher.
And what
I
about?
Understand that. Right.
Sorry, and the notion some would have that, well, we'll only regulate rents in this area of the country, and I'm mindful how I say that, but thinking to some other jurisdictions where, we assign in our minds, even probably through the demographics. Over here, this is subject to rent control, housing control, but not over here. This is the affluent area, so it's $10,000 a day, but over here, it's only $100 a month, so to speak. So I'm wondering if we're going to do that again, like I understand the law to be, and please correct me if it's been amended, but remember we passed a law that if a crime is committed in certain areas, that crime is now subject to a higher sanction and penalty than if the same crime was committed in another area. And I would imagine that a crime is a crime no matter if it's committed on a weekday or a weekend, 5 p.m. or 5 a.m. On 7 Mile Beach or in East End. If you assaulted somebody, you assaulted somebody. You should be subject to the full extent of the law no matter who you are or where you are.
Yeah, if you have rent control in one area and not in another area, you're going to that's going to be reflected in the value of your property if you try to sell it. Right? Because the truth of the matter is that there's no free lunch. And no, the person, I understand that people look at their children and they think, oh, how cute. But But the problem that you have is that you're in a situation where you've signed an agreement with someone that you're not going to destroy their property. And what that also means is your family members who are staying there with you and guests who visit you, it's your responsibility to ensure that they don't destroy the property, because the agreement's between you and the landlord.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? And so let's put it this way. So let's say that you think you can destroy the property, and now it ends up in a dispute situation before the so-called board, and you're going through an investigation about this. What is it going to cost you to go through a complaint that may? Let's just limit the conversation right now because obviously if somebody's doing something wrong, that's fine. But if it's not accurate, let's say that the tenant is claiming something that isn't true, what's that going to cost the landlord to go through? At the end of the day, you're still going to have the agreement that says that if you damage it, you're going to have to pay for it. But now the landlord is going to have to pay for perhaps legal representation for the dispute phase. Plus, you're still going to have to pay for it because that's the agreement.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
But
you got it in a certain condition. You destroyed it. The board isn't going to help you.
But to that point, though, and I'm thinking also, let's say it's not a landlord-tenant situation, but you now you own your place. You're paying a loan payment at the bank because it's not a mortgage, right? I wonder if in our mortgage agreement, if there are clauses that say, listen, you got to make sure you take out insurance. You got to maintain the property. You can't let it run down because we as the bank, we have an interest in this thing. And if you don't keep it up, to scratch, it's going to affect, our ability to foreclose and realize after sale sufficient funds to repay your indebtedness. So I wonder if in our mortgage agreement, as we call it, that loan agreement that is attached to that borrowing, if there are clauses to that effect, just like the landlord would have in the tenancy agreement with the renter.
Well, if you have an agreement with the bank on finance, and they're going to set the terms.
Well,
so if you want the money, you're going to have to do what they require you to do. Otherwise, you won't get the money.
Yeah, it's not like the country song, I got the money, honey, if you got the time, right?
But here's what's going to happen if you go and claim insurance.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think is going to happen to insurance rates if everybody is claiming?
Mm-hmm.
Who do you think is going to suffer in the long run?
It's another added layer of cost and bureaucracy, inefficiency.
And if the person who thinks that they can live in your house, in your apartment, with a reckless disregard for your apartment, and it's not going to cost anything, they're delusional. It will cost. Let me put it this way.
Uh-huh.
Let's take it for the sake of discussion. Let's take it outside of renting for a moment.
Uh-huh.
And let's just say you're going to go to a place of business and you're going to buy a service, buy a product or a service, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you go to business A and the quality of the service of the product there is just atrocious. Are you going to just keep shopping there, or are you going to go to a different place and that has a quality product or a quality service? What I'm trying to say there is this: is if you have landlords who don't take care of their places, okay? Why would you rent it? Why would you rent something that is substandard, that is as terrible as you claim that it is? Why would you rent it? Why would you not say, no, thank you?
And I think by extension, there's also a bigger sort of picture as well. If in your country, right, you allow spaces that to be rented, to be habitable, what does that speak to the values?
but that takes us back to the question of quality.
Exactly. No, I'm with you, right? But what I'm saying is that. Well, go ahead. I don't want to take you.
The question is how do we?
Yeah.
Like, are you going to say that if you're going to rent a place, then you must have this type of material for this, that type of this for that, this for, or will people be free to build something that may differ from the quality of something else, not garbage, but reasonable, right?
I think many of us would appreciate that in a competitive sort of free market economy. Let's say there are two properties for rent, not for sale, for rent. They're both, let's say, 1,000 square feet, same number of bedrooms and offerings, but one is certainly in an area that is considered more desirable, more convenient. Perhaps the views, the accessibility to transport, to schools, to work, to whatever, right? The other one is a little bit more remote. Maybe one is designed and furnished to a particular standard. One would expect that one would, despite being the same size and a similar layout, that one may command a higher payment, whether for sale or for rent, than the other, right?
Sure. Yeah. Sure, because what you're getting isn't just the unit itself, but the location,
the amenities,
and
right.
Yeah. Right. Why shouldn't people be able to compete on that level? And why shouldn't residents just say, "That's garbage. I'm not renting that"?
Yeah.
Let me tell you the response that I get to that sometimes is this. But sometimes we don't have an option. Well, let me ask you this question. Let's say you rented all of the places, the good ones and the bad ones, and there is nothing left to rent. What do you do then? What are you going to do then?
Yeah.
You don't have any right to force somebody to build places for you to rent. Now, that's business opportunities, but to how quickly someone takes up that opportunity depends on a lot of factors.
Right.
But the point I'm trying to get across to you is, in the same way that you could flat out just run out of places to rent, you could have an artificial situation that along that line that is created because people have decided they're not going to rent the junk. Well, the person who doesn't have the place to rent is going to say, "Well, but I need a place to rent." Yeah, but if you give in to the person who has no regard for what it is they're renting you, then that's what they're going to continue to rent you.
Yeah, I mean,
but if their places go unrented because they're garbage, what happens then?
Yeah, all right. We have that break. I mean, you're welcome to continue after, or you can always join us at another time. What's your preference, my friend?
I'll just leave it right
okay.
there for today.
Perfect.
I just think that what people think they will get out of the board isn't going to be as much as they will get out of the board.
Well, like a lot of things, man. But thank you, and I'll share.
Right, take care.
All right. After the break, some of the comments that came in. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
You know, as a little girl, I dreamt of traveling to faraway places and foreign lands. I tell you what though, no more dreaming. This summer, I'm going flying with Cayman Airways. How blessed are we in the Cayman Islands to have a very own national airline? Girl, you can fly to so many international destinations without the hassle of connecting flights. On top of Jamaica, Cuba, and Honduras, you got non-stop flights from Cayman to New York, Miami, Tampa, and even Denver, Los Angeles, and now Panama. Going to be a little cafe con leche and Hollywood Squares for this old gal this summer.
Make your travel dreams come true with Cayman Airways, offering non-stop flights for non-stop adventures in Panama, LA, and many more places in between. For details and to book, call 949-2311, contact a travel agent, or visit CaymanAirways.com.
All aboard the Pizza Boat! Cayman's newest pizzeria. Birthday parties, office luncheons, summer camps, game night. Whatever your occasion, bring the fun with Pizza Boat. A Cayman twist to pizza. Bringing fusion ingredients from all over the globe to give you locally inspired fresh pizzas all day, every day. What's more, now you can enjoy a boat-shaped pizza with toppings of your choice. It's Pizza Boat. Pizza Boat, now open in Queens Court on West Bay Road. Pick up or delivery 949-0000 or order online www.pizzaboat.ky. Pizza Boat. Experience the ultimate pizza voyage.
Yo, big up Massive. Listen up, we got some good news for you. Digicel is bringing you the hottest deal in town. Send top up hassle-free to Jamaica with the My Digicel app. No fees for a limited time. Me people, it's pure love from Digicel. Send credit from the My Digicel app, any kiosk, or go to a Digicel store and show your loved ones in Jamaica you care. They will stay connected, chat, and stream without them fees. Spread the word. This is a big deal. Tell your mother, father, uncle, auntie, brother, sister, and friend. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Send top up to Jamaica today. Digicel, the ultimate connection.
Terms and conditions apply. Visit Digicel's website or contact customer support for more info.
Explore your history. Explore your land. Explore your sister islands, the ultimate staycation experience. Your culture, your freedom, the land that time forgot isn't gone. It's your sister islands.
Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
The Commission for Standards in Public Life reminds all persons subject to the Standards in Public Life Act that the Register of Interests portal is now accepting declaration submissions. All annual declarations are due on the 30th of July.
If you need assistance to complete your declaration, the Commission for Standards in Public Life has a new tutorial video available to provide further guidance. Visit www.standardsinpubliclifecommission.ky/register of interest to view the tutorial video today.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks for joining us. It is open line, and a couple of weighed in through a phone call or two, and some have messaged and sent many that we want to share following the initial call concerning landlord and tenants, rentals and the like. One of our listeners said, later the call had a lot of great points, and glad that we were able to engage you. It was very, very informative. So thank you for benefiting from that. Thank you for sharing that it was, somewhat informative for you. It's about having a platform that we can talk. Doesn't mean that we don't get heated. It just means that we're also willing to listen to other people as we ourselves express what we want to share in a very emotive way. The concerns about housing, the cost to build, the price to rent, the ability to access and afford borrowings. Now, it's not a mortgage, as I'm constantly reminded, because the understanding, acceptance, and expectation is that you go to a financial institution, whether it's for 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 40, some years in some cases, you know that that amount that you've borrowed is going to be repaid over that agreed period of time at that fixed, monthly or by, weekly installment. Some will do it annual, quarterly, whatever that agreed, repayment is over that time in that amount. And it's going to be able for you to set your budget. Every pay period, you're going to put X dollars, $1,000 a month, $1,000 a week, $1,000 every 2 weeks. You know your budget, and it's going to be repaid. We've created a system, and we seem to have been willing to accept it for this last 50 plus years. Remember the practice not long ago? You went to the bank only after you got your house up to the Belton. We've changed the the law with the builders. Builders now no longer the Builders Act, you can't even do that. Just the ability to build your own space. Some would even allege the substandard construction and workmanship by castigating all and painting them all with the same brush. What are we doing to raise the standards and to ensure that there's integrity in what we're doing, there's humility in our actions? Take the older Cayman homes, or whether they're the ones that were built, with wattle and daub and still exist, or the early days of block construction and poured concrete. They understood how to, toe-nail the roof and the rafters to secure it, even in absence of the belting straps and hurricane straps. They withstood many of a storm, including Ivan, and yet the newer homes that are built in the surrounding environs just didn't stand up to the weather. Something to be said for the workmanship. Well, here are some comments that we want to share relative to the discussions that came through as we talked about rent control and landlords and tenants. Some of our listeners, I'll share as best I can from what is here, verbatim in many instances. So this rent control for Cayman is ridiculous. Our government can't even protect pensions. In a debate on minimum wages, traffic is a nightmare. There's zero relief, from off-rig. No way, does this government need to get involved with private property and fair market value. In some jurisdictions, like New York, for instance, there's a debate ongoing now to lift the half a century of rent control. Hundreds of landlords, this one reads, are getting, shafted by tenants. There are cases, before the courts, where people are being owed thousands and thousands. Renter, for instance, can move on, but the owner/landlord cannot, because they're, mortgaged to the hilt with the banks, and the banks are eager to foreclose when there's non-payment. In some instances, the landlord dwells in the same home that is being rented, and their own homes are being put in jeopardy of loss because of the non-payment and the environment created by the tenants. So the free market should determine the value of rent. If a landlord is asking too much, then that place will not rent, and it will then force the landlord to lower the asking price based on the demand, or run the risk of it remaining unrented. There are allegations of renters that steal items and run out on not paying the rent, and the kindness and generosity of landlords sometimes who take limited or no deposit end up holding the bag. The ones that refuse to pay utilities, the landlords and owners then get stuck with these huge bills, or end up having to pay for the suffer disconnections and the like. This one reads in relation to the small claims courts, so that can be expensive and time consuming. Sometimes matters can take a year or more to get sorted out, and will a bank be willing to wait that long for its payments? This one says we need to be mindful not to conflate the conditions of a property with the contractual obligations of paying the rent. There are huge inflation and housing costs in many jurisdictions, including the U.S. And if a landlord isn't receiving the rent payment in a timely manner and in the agreed sum, the landlord should be able to lawfully evict that tenant. Although in some jurisdictions, this can take years and years. Presumably, I think there are notions that possession, I'm told in some jurisdictions, including France, and for those of you who know differently, one of the challenges absentee landlords have is if a squatter goes into the space, isn't paying anything, isn't legally there, but manages to gain access to that space in some defined period, that squatter acquires rights, and the owner, the legal owner, presumably has a great challenge getting that person legally removed, because the person that is there can now claim some sort of rights, squatters' rights, as I'm told. Now, those of you who know differently can share. but issues that are not necessarily new under the sun, perhaps issues we can do. Last quick point before we take the scheduled break. This one cautions, be mindful of creating another level of bureaucracy. Take, for instance, issues going before the quote-unquote labor board. They can be end up being a big waste of time, because many times the bureaucracy just works against it and doesn't work itself. There are allegations of individuals not getting any kind of relief, and the time, aggravation, and expense only leads to greater frustration. And many people, just in frustration, just walk away and say no sense throwing good money after bad. All right, let's pause and take this break. When we come back, hey, call and share your thoughts. 949-8037 or toll free 1-800-534-TALK.
They say variety is the spice of life. And that's why at Subway, we're introducing the new boneless hot sub. Say what? The premium sub brings new ingredients like spicy breaded boneless chicken, French's crispy fried onions, and buffalo wing sauce, bringing a zesty and flavorful experience with every bite. Add some of your favorite veggies, cheese, and ranch sauce of your choice of freshly baked bread for the ultimate boneless hot sub. For a little spice in your life, try the new boneless hot sub from Subway.
So good and tasty.
And make it a meal with a drink and chips or cookies. Subway. Eat fresh.
You know, as a little girl, I dreamt of traveling to faraway places and foreign lands. I tell you what though, no more dreaming. This summer, I'm going flying with Cayman Airways. How blessed are we in the Cayman Islands to have a very own national airline? Girl, you can fly to so many international destinations without the hassle of connecting flights. On top of Jamaica, Cuba, and Honduras, you got non-stop flights from Cayman to New York, Miami, Tampa, and even Denver, Los Angeles, and now Panama. Going to be a little cafe con leche and Hollywood Squares for this old gal this summer.
Make your travel dreams come true with Cayman Airways, offering non-stop flights for non-stop adventures in Panama, LA, and many more places in between. For details and to book, call 949-2311, contact a travel agent, or visit CaymanAirways.com.
It's a 24-karat summer with Digicel. In honor of our first truly COVID-free summer, Digicel is giving away $24,000. Be one of 10 to win $2,400 this July. For a chance to win, all you have to do is switch to Digicel, activate a Prime bundle, or simply pay your bill on time. It's that easy. It takes 2 minutes to get $2,400 richer. Make the choice to win today and visit a Digicel store near you.
Now, more than ever, supporting your immune system is crucial to helping your body fight off illnesses like the common cold, the flu, and COVID-19. At ValueMed Pharmacy on Walkers Road and in Boddentown, we carry all the essential vitamins and minerals to help support your immune system and improve your overall health. Some of our top immunity support picks are vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, elderberry, and quercetin, or the popular 7-in-1 immunity support. Our pharmacists are always on hand to help guide you and answer any questions. Visit ValueMed Pharmacy on Walkers Road or Boddentown. Live happy, live healthy with ValueMed Pharmacy. The offices of dermatologist Dr. Wayne Porter will be taking appointments from July 9th through 15th at his Crew Road Clinic. Appointment slots are limited. Whether you're seeking advanced skincare, Botox, filler, cosmetic skin enhancements, or simply looking to reduce wrinkles, Dr. Porter offers a full-service dermatology and dermatological surgery practice. For more information, email dr.porterkiman@gmail.com or call 946-9020 to book your appointment today. That is 946-9020.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thanks for joining us. It is Open Line on another terrific Thursday's edition of Talk Today, as we, want you to give some thought into what we're sharing. Make a discussion very insightful, evocative. From you, perhaps we'll get a perspective that may inform other people, may inspire them, may cause them to consider their thoughts and say, you know what, I agree with that. It may also motivate them to say, nope, I don't. I think this needs to be the perspective as we've had. Relatively similar views, but a few that caution, relative to the discussion of landlord and tenants and the like. So, call and share as you want. Two of the things that we want to do. One, our friends in Kimberback and Little Cayman, we don't want to exclude you. You have properties there. Are you having similar issues relative to, the way landlords act or the way tenants behave? Or is it our perception that life on the Brack and Little Cayman is just superior and fantastic and always amazing? Because you just do it right over there. Maybe we can learn a few things or two from you. But share with us. Not to be ever harping on the issue of crime, but our quality of life, our safety, security, the political, economic, social stability is very much dependent on our peace of mind, our personal safety, or whether we're sitting on our front porches or somewhere in our back garden, or whether we're out taking a walk or we're exercising, whether it's late at night or before the sunrise. This should be a safe society, and we all should have that presence of mind that we're safe. But are we finding ourselves more and more concerned about our safety? Not only when we're walking to our cars from the places of business that we frequent, or whether it's leaving work, or whether it's going into exercise, or it's leaving home, or returning home. What's happening in our society, and what are we able to do about it? Well, share your perspectives on that. But the other thing I wanted, we're into the summer. Many of our children are out of school, and whether that is, their primary and secondary education, or whether it's coming home from university. I had a chance as the sort of quote-unquote the graduation and school leaving ceremonies were taking place to chat with a few, and there were a couple of things that really stood out. The first one was totally unexpected, and as the comment was made by one, almost in unison, there was a chorus by the others, and reminded you that these are our young students. And they asked the question, do you see the color of our buildings? Now, I don't believe anybody in the small group of students use the word, oh, they're ugly or hideous or horrendous. But those are the words that, I gathered from what they were sharing. And one or two said, maybe there needs to be some sort of, policy or law that says, buildings can't be ugly. One or two suggested that in other jurisdictions that they've lived or that they've visited or that they know from studying, not just Bermuda, but buildings can't be painted in some of these hideous colors. Again, I don't think any of the students used that word, but it was my interpretation of what they were sharing, and certainly a word that I'd use in order to be reminded of what I understood them to be saying. And they pointed out many buildings, and many of the buildings are government, public buildings. Some question, did it offend sort of the cultural sensitivity in the Cayman context? One young lady, she shared, she thought that the Caribbean colors of Cayman were the more pastels, not these, high bright colors. Well, what is your thought? Is that important? I also then ask, and again, I didn't, it wasn't an exhaustive discussion. I just listened, because it just shows you how our children engage, and when they're willing to talk physically, assemble, and they talk. To me, that's much better than when they're in their little spaces with their devices and they're engaging, but it just shows you how much they're thinking and interacting, even when it's not physical in your presence. But they also asked, is there any sort of, hidden messages, symbolisms, and like just thoughts? So share with us. And then the behaviors that they have shared, where a few of them said, they were hoping that as they did the last summer, one said he had arranged from December, during the Christmas break, that Easter, during that school break, and again in summer, and that he could return to come and work in that particular business establishment. Nothing significant, but just a little bit of spending money, occupying a few hours of each day, over the majority of the working week. And only to be told that, sorry, we're going to give someone else a chance. He thought, okay, that's not what I wanted. Bit of a disappointment, but, can't get it all. There was, nothing more than a bit of a disappointment. But only to appreciate now that, that somebody else is somebody new to the island. Here he is, working and want to save and have a little spending money. To me, exhibiting a strong work ethic, being heavily encouraged by his own family, and can't get a little summer job. And yet, someone who's new to the jurisdiction can come in and work. Well, we've heard it being discussed, by some of our talk show hosts and many of our public, that it seemingly is now accepted. But when you listen to the young students and question, well, what are they going to do now? They had planned, they thought they had something arranged, but to be, my words, to be displaced. Does that affect them in a way that later on they may consider, well, what's the point in being this way and doing that? And now what happens if if that young student isn't as active and engaged? Or, well, your thoughts, huh? 949-8037, 949-6990, 1-800-534-8255, or you can WhatsApp, 925-3261. Here is a comment from a listener. Says, foreigners should not be given, permanent residency because they bought land. That is sad to hear, and who and why they came up with that idea. We need to reserve land for the next generation of true Caymanians. Okay, so this is a message from one of our listeners, and try to read it as it was sent. But that may be something that we can discuss if you think is important. Should the ownership of land be a prerequisite? Should that be a requirement to determine whether you have the right to legally remain in the country, to get permanent residency, which will put you on the road to status, we can't call it citizenship. And so maybe we need to look at it, and we need to ask what we're trying to do. We do have a caller, Miss Susan. We have the news break. Let's quickly take this caller, and then maybe, depending on where it transfers, we'll continue after. But let's go to the phones. Hey, welcome. Good afternoon.
Yes, you got to continue after the news.
Of course. It's you. How are you?
Oh, not too bad, Sterling. How are you?
Oh, thank God. I am really, really doing well,
You had me on a long vacation. I don't know how much more days I could take the situation. But I'm glad you're back. And we need to clone you because we need more than one of you at my station there, and I don't know what they're waiting on.
Well, I tell you, man. I hope you don't need to use my hair to clone me, because that's fast as
I hope not, Sterling. I love you to death, but I hope not.
Well, I'm glad that you missed me, and thank you for the love. Huh?
And I'm sick and tired. Everybody's calling me, what happened to me? What happened to you? And I'm like, I don't know. Sterling is on vacation.
Yep.
But I know you're going to soon get a news break, but I'm hoping that I can hold on afterwards.
You are. I'm very grateful for you offering that, and we can talk with you about any and everything that you wish. So we'll take the news, and then we'll rejoin you right after. Okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. Please hold on. All right. Listen to our news and be informed, and then join us after.
Continuing the Caymanian tradition.
Let Cora keep my ground so clean.
The heart and soul of the Cayman people. Thank you for keeping the culture alive.
There's the news every day. From East End to Georgetown, down into West Bay.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman. Your voice, your choice. Local, regional, international. This is headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
Housing and Planning Minister, the Honourable Dwayne Ebanks, says 16 homes are currently being built in Northside, with another 12 planned to see construction start within the next 2 weeks. There are also 19 set for Lighthouse in West Bay, with planning permission expected soon for the 60 homes scheduled for the Apple Blossom site. In addition to these projects, Mr. Ebanks says his ministry has rolled out a pilot project for Lands and Survey to identify smaller Crown-owned parcels that could be used for housing. In international headlines, the British government offered millions of public sector workers pay raises today in a bid to end an array of strikes that have crippled trains, healthcare, and other services for more than a year now, amid the biggest cost of living crisis in generations. On the day that tens of thousands of doctors in Britain's state-funded health service launched a 5-day walkout, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak accepted pay recommendations from independent review bodies, but he insisted there would be no more discussions with unions. U.S. officials have approved the first over-the-counter birth control bill, which would allow American women and girls to buy contraceptive medication from the same aisle as aspirin and eye drops. The Food and Drug Administration said today it has cleared Perrigo's once-a-day O-pill to be sold without a prescription, making it the first such medication to be moved out from behind the pharmacy counter. The company won't start shipping the pill until early next year, and there will be no age restrictions on sales. Hormone-based pills have long been the most common form of birth control in the U.S., used by tens of millions of women since the 1960s. Until now, all of them required a prescription. Those are your headlines. I'm April Cummings.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman. Your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
You know you've dreamed of that Mercedes, the smooth leather, the style, luxury that feels so good. Ooh la la. With the prestigious 2023 Mercedes-Benz GLA 200 up for grabs in this year's Lions Club of Grand Cayman Benzorama fundraiser. This is your chance to make that dream come true. Tickets are $25 for one, 3 for $65, or 5 for $100. Benzorama fundraiser tickets are available with Lions Club members and various sales outlets. The Lions Club of Grand Cayman Benzorama fundraiser supports numerous community initiatives, includes sightseeing, Christmas deliveries, restoration, and social services.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. And we joined this wonderful lady who's so gracious and amenable with her time and so willing to share. So thank you for holding on.
Yes, Sterling. I just ate a chocolate celebrating your return back to the station.
You know, I thank you for doing that. I have a very close and personal friend who has shared 20, I had to count them, 20 little chocolates, different percentages. You know, some were 100%, some were 97, 92, 80, and you know, I have one each day. So you know, taste me.
100. I'll take 100.
So it's a good day. It's a good day.
Yes, it is. Sterling, so much to talk about in very little time, but I want to hit on Smith Cove.
Okay.
I had a friend in for a couple of weeks visiting, and we went to Smith Cove a couple times. And I think it was the second day that we went there, they was having the senior citizens down there. But didn't know what was going on until we came back from the water that's what was actually taking place. Anyhow, they have a little shower there and restrooms something that needs to be upgraded. And Sterling, the water is running from where? I'm not quite sure.
Mm-hmm.
But it builds up this green mossy water on the stones that the guys there for you to walk on and on the ground. And it looked very slippery and dangerous. And then, like I said, these seniors came there to hang out for a couple hours, I guess. They was under a tent and sitting down, and they were sitting in the back of this shower and restroom area. Sterling, I don't care what nobody say. I just want to say today that our seniors are more valuable than how I see they were situated at the Smith Cove a couple of weeks ago. When you say seniors, you know that some of them is up there in age, and they still want to come out, but there needs to be in a more clean and decent environment, knowing that they are citizens of this island, and the majority of them, I'm quite sure, who have built this country, them or their husband or their sons or whatever the case may be. So I just want to say that I thought that was very unbecoming for citizens to be sitting up there at Smith Cove in the back of this shower and restroom area in a tent, hot as the devil, and the ground was mossy and wet. And we try to use the shower to wash some sand off our feet. And the water that's coming from the shower is so sprayed out that you couldn't even get your feet washed off properly, and you couldn't even let it go, the pressure to press the water to continue coming. You could, in some places you can just go and pull it and it continue running for a period of time, and then it stops. So we couldn't get a proper rinse off, not in your feet.
Yeah.
But I just want to say that we went back again, like a couple of days later, and look, like someone throwed some gravel over the water was settling there, and very green and mossy. And from what I recall, I thought that Miss Barbara had put a handicap mat to walk on to get down to the beach and to get back up as comfortable as possible, especially for seniors, especially for me that got 2 bad knees. And, it's nothing like that down there. And then the Monday, the holiday Monday we had the other day, went down there, and the place was a mess. There was garbage all over the place. There was people down there smoking reefer. I even asked one of the guys, I said, "What are you smoking?" "I'm smoking cigarette." I said, "No, you ain't." And then I told him I was going to call the police. And then my girlfriend was in the water. She came up. She said, "I can't stay in the water no more because then I was not in the water at the present time." She said, "I can't stay in the water no more because then this guy in the water smoking reefer is very strong." So, you can't even go nowhere today and enjoy this so small island that we call home. There's always something to make you uncomfortable when you go places. And they say they want to make ganja legal on the island. And some time ago, in my neighborhood, I can stay in my yard and smell reefer. And if you got a respiratory problem and breathing problem and everything else, why in the heck are we going to go and allow for this ganja to be wide open and by law they can use it? And people's having breathing problems, and here you are outside in your yard sitting down smoking. Now, you want to smoke that mess, you go lock up in your room so you can inhale air and suck out of it, and you get your high and you go to sleep. Do not disturb the other people who's not involved in it. You know what I mean? But I want to know where is the mat for the beach for Smith Cove, and if there's one, it's greatly needed. And that beach needs to be more monitored. I did see one cleaning service came there and went and cleaned the bathrooms. And after he cleaned, he took pictures of it, which is all right. That the parents are going to the bathrooms. It's not very becoming for an island that we so-called our tourism product. What is our tourism product these days? I would like to know. I believe we had one time, but I don't think we have one as much now, Sterling, with everything that's happening throughout the island. when it comes to going and taking visitors here and there. And our island is becoming under a degrading situation, and all you can hear is our tourism product. I need the government to come and tell me what is our product, because then we might have had one, but we are losing it rapidly. I'm going to let you go, but I want to hit one thing.
Of course.
And I'll make you go.
Mm-hmm.
Sterling, you know, every year the workers here bring their kids to come to visit them for the summer. Sterling, I think it's so unfair for these people to have to bring their children to Cayman and then continue to work in someone's kitchen that got their own children in their kitchen, and the helper is walking with their little 5-year-old child 6 o'clock in the morning, going to that person's kitchen to take care of their home for the day or whatever the case may be. Those kids that come here, if the parents want to stay here for the vacation, they should be entitled to. If they want to go then home to their country to see their children, it should be mandatory that they are allowed to go and visit their families without bringing those kids here to be walking in this hot broiling sun and going to watch their mother work in someone's kitchen. I feel that these home owners that got helpers needs to take their home back to a degree and respect those that got children that need their parents as well too. It is very selfish working for $800 or max of $1,000 probably for the month. You got to walk a dog, you got to clean windows. Sometimes you can put you in a uniform, or they make you go and drive the car, or got a car for you to take the kids wherever they got to go, and all that kind of baloney. I mean, you got someone working in your kitchen for 8 years, and they go home once a year, but four times out of that 8 years they bring the kids down, and they can't take a decent vacation to enjoy the kids without going back to their boss house with their children, and it's so restricted for the child when it's in that person's house. That is selfishness in immigration and everybody. I need to look into that. That's not fair to the children. That's not a vacation. Walking 6 o'clock in the morning with their parents to go to work.
You raised a lot of good points, as always, you know.
Yes, and I will let you go.
All right. Well, I hope to hear from you very soon, okay?
Definitely.
All right,
you take care and have a good one now.
Thank
Bye,
you.
darling.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Take
Bye-bye.
care. Let's take this other caller. Hey, welcome. Good afternoon, and thank you for calling.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon, Sterling. Blessings to you, brother.
Hey, amen, brother. How are you?
Very good, thank you. Trust that the family and everyone is doing well by God's grace.
Through His mercy, my friend.
Amen, so true. But happy summer to you. And I want to pick up on something that's really pressing on my heart for some years now. And the news broadcast that was just shared kind of triggered the thought. And this is this new trend of availing to children, what we would call underage children below the age of consent, and even preteens and younger, availing to children these contraceptives that does not require parental consent or parental assent to it. My mind goes back recently that I heard of this program that took place at actually it was the whole 7 Mile Beach. I heard that they walked the whole 7 Mile Beach and culminated at the 7 Mile Beach itself. And they had this mass something, and it was so barbarous and it was so disgusting what the children were doing. And there's a couple of points I want to bring on in this, Sterling, so I think we may go by your news hour, but just let me know. And
We got a break at 15:15. I mean, if you want to, maybe before you start it, we can take that commercial break now and then join you right after. How about that?
Sure.
Okay.
If you want to, sure.
Let's do that so we can give you the time without being interrupted. I'm excited to hear what you got to say. I ask our listeners to join us after.
You know, as a little girl, I dreamt of traveling to faraway places and foreign lands. I tell you what though, no more dreaming. This summer, I'm going flying with Cayman Airways. How blessed are we in the Cayman Islands to have a very own national airline? Girl, you can fly to so many international destinations without the hassle of connecting flights. On top of Jamaica, Cuba, and Honduras, you got non-stop flights from Cayman to New York, Miami, Tampa, and even Denver, Los Angeles, and now Panama. Going to be a little cafe traffic con leche and Hollywood Squares for this old gal this summer.
Make your travel dreams come true with Cayman Airways, offering non-stop flights for non-stop adventures in Panama, LA, and many more places in between. For details and to book, call 949-2311, contact a travel agent, or visit CaymanAirways.com.
From boat days to beach gatherings, leave the catering to Subway. Choose from small and large sandwich platters, double meat wrap platters, and top it off with optional cookie platters for dessert. Or ask about our Subway box to go with the option of 6-inch or foot-long sandwich, 1 cookie, and 1 bag of chips. For all occasions and celebrations, let Subway focus on the food so you can focus on the fun. Visit subway.ky for catering options. Subway. Eat fresh.
For the record. For information that matters to you, the people. Hear from the government, the opposition, independents, and other experts on issues and solutions that affect you. For the record. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, tune into 89.9 and 93.9 FM for Cayman's Straight Talk Morning Show. For the record.
I invite you to join me for the record. You are invited to be a part of this interesting and informative show. Embrace the opportunity to dialogue with your legislators, policymakers, and those charged with policy implementation.
For the record. Brought to you by
Coca-Cola. Available across the Cayman Islands from Tortuga Distributors.
Accept no substitutes. Taste the feeling with Coca-Cola.
No, man. I'm tired of seeing a new charge on my phone bill every month.
You are always complaining about that bill. I think it's time you make that switch to Digicel.
I've been with my network for more than a decade. I don't know if I want to move over now.
Well, better later than never. When you switch to Digicel, you get better speeds, more data, and simply more value. Best of all, no dishonest practices. What they say is what you get. Make that switch today and get 50% off your first 2 months.
50% off my first 2 months? Mary, you're convincing me now. Okay, I'll visit a Digicel store near me.
Experience the bigger, better network. Switch your postpaid number to Digicel for 50% off your first 2 months or get a free 30-day Prime bundle for prepaid customers. Make the switch today.
Freedom, Cayman Brack. Freedom, Little Cayman. Soft breezes, blue waters, no traffic. Unwind and rejuvenate your mind, body, and soul. Sister Island Staycations, a taste of freedom. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Good afternoon and welcome back. Thank you for joining us. It's open line. We've got a caller who is also willing to share with us. Hey, thanks, my friend, for holding on.
Yeah, thank you, Sterling. So there seems to be a global trend, and the trend is like a war has been waged against the family, with a great focus on the children. Why? What is the value, the moral value, the social value? Clearly, there's an economic value to it, what I'm about to ask. That you would lower not even lower, but you just simply take away any restrictions that would inhibit children from feeling protected to go out and to get involved in certain social behaviors that would result in pregnancy. And so when I heard this report made last week, I think it was, on one of the local shows, pertaining to what mothers and grandmothers were seeing out there, what the children were doing, and there was no restrictions. They were just let loose to get into this really horrible behavior, right? My mind goes to the Bible scriptures, of course. When Lord Jesus tells us that as it was in the days of Noah, they ate, they drank, they bought, they sold, they married, they gave in marriage, and as it was in the days of Lot, they ate, they drank, they bought, they sold. And we know that had a lot to do with a lot of deviance, right? We're seeing children being targeted across the board, and so the same thing is happening here in our little island because, of course, if the U.S. does it, that's the mainstream, that's the pipeline for the rest of the world. And what I want to transition to, attached to that, is this, and I pray, of course, this is going to cause some backlash, no doubt, but I have to share what the Lord gives me to share. The same approach is taking with this LGBTQ plus movement with children and the indoctrination of children, where they're they are successfully undermining moral values and trying to open their little minds into experimenting themselves. And this is attached to what I just opened with, right? Experimenting themselves and behaviors that is contrary to what they are. For example, there's a lot of reading material, video material, social integration material, a lot of material being pushed now to have little children exposed to that lifestyle, to that LGBT plus community lifestyle. They have no idea what it is that they're getting exposed to. There was a report that came out recently where this former woman had been born female woman, genetic woman, had been employed by an LGBTQ plus organization in the U.S. And she was told, this is her testimony now, she was told that she was trying to, part of the organization was to help to promote, people having, their own choice to live how they want to. But then she said in a short while, she realized that the focus was to indoctrinate children into experimenting with this lifestyle. And she said she was so distraught to see that schools, public facilities, communities were opening the doors wide open and calling these people experts when they themselves knew nothing about really what they were talking about other than what they were given to read and to give. Now, here now is a social-political concern I'm going to raise with you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what would happen, Sterling, if every country would stop having children? What do you think would happen if every country stopped having children? You may say, what does that have to do with what you're saying? China, Japan, and a number of other countries are now investing billions of dollars because their populations have dropped to where it's becoming a national crisis. And if your population drops too fast and your age people die off too quickly, you don't have sufficient population to sustain your economy, right? If this LGBTQ movement continues, and it will, according to the Bible, it will, continues in the momentum it has, and populations drop because no longer is a man and a woman procreating to have children. There's going to be a rapid slowdown. The more advanced this movement becomes, the less procreation of children between a man and a woman will be. That means that the numbers, the populations will drop drastically the more successful this LGBTQ plus movement is. And my concern, Sterling, is in various levels, but my primary concern is how children are oblivious to what is being pushed to them in schools and in libraries. And of course, there's a equal push or greater push against anything from the Bible to help bring morality, to teach children what is right and wrong, how to treat their bodies and how to treat others. And there's a great push against the Bible and the love of Jesus Christ, and there's a huge push for this LGBT plus community. And I'm very concerned how many parents, too many parents, are oblivious to what's happening to their children until one day you see them in this lifestyle. And I close with this. I want to close because I don't want to take up every minute. But we have every government around the world pushing as part of their international policies that you must accept this movement. I was told, not me, but it was actually shared. It was a testimony that was shared where the past governor of this island had called a very influential talk show host and invited her to come to meet with him, and he encouraged her to push that same agenda And of course, we know the leading government also supports this because what's interesting, Sterling?
Mm-hmm.
Every year we have 1 day for Mother's Day. Every year we have 1 day for Father's Day. And every year we have 30 days for Pride Month. Do you think about that? 1 day to celebrate fathers, 1 day to celebrate mothers, and 30 days to celebrate the LGBTQ plus community. And this is people don't realize when we talk about economy, what's happened to our families, what's happened to children, they're so rebellious. People don't realize that if you take away Jesus Christ from society, this and worse is what you get. Brother, I must leave you there. I just want to put that out there for person to think about is where we are going, not just the Cayman Islands, but this whole planet without Jesus. God bless you, brother.
Blessings, my friend. And thank you for sharing. And our listener was, I guess, not only very articulate, but making some excellent points. So, sometimes when you share, others listen and they draw alongside, but hopefully it engages our minds and our thoughts. And as we look to civility and respect, as we look at a sense of responsibility, we're always willing to be accountable. Now, to the caller's perspective, maybe if the cultural ethos and its norms are no longer representative of its values, perhaps we need to look at it. If we don't celebrate each other, and to the extent that we should, well, it's on us, all right? Let us read a couple of our listeners' views. Was one here that I thought sort of picked up on something. It says in Cayman, the cultural ethos was and always has been the use of conservative colors in dress, and the way we clean our buildings. And like Cayman, traditionally was a very more conservative country. This listener, perhaps maybe one of the last comments we'll leave with our listeners from what is shared by those who opted to send their thoughts so we can read. It says, overpopulation of Cayman is the biggest environmental disaster. That is what our current government should address, followed by high inflation and the crime that comes from both. The Caymanian middle class is being decimated. The overpopulation is destroying Caymanians and our culture. The waste being put out by 40,000 foreigners or expats is clogging our dump, our infrastructure as a whole, and have huge environmental impacts. This includes population from pollution from cars, consumer waste, energy generation and consumption. Greed is destroying our little island paradise. Crime from the friction of huge population increases is one of the prices we are now paying. Thank that listener for sharing our thought. And as we look upon that, perhaps come tomorrow. It's a Friday already. And there is no Monday or other scheduled holiday unless you have vacation time to take between now and November. I have always advocated that perhaps there's a time, we should celebrate. I always thought September, still stick to it. I commend one or two of the companies that experimented last summer and presumably are still trying to do it again this summer, that they have, a 4-day work week and giving their staff the option to take an extended long weekend every Friday. We know many mature democracies have done likewise. It's not anything other than a sensible approach to give staff an opportunity to unwind and to regroup and to appreciate that we work extremely hard. There are many of us, whether we do a 40-hour week, that country song talks about, if we start work on Monday, by Thursday, I've already put 40 hours in. Not to say that there are not some of us that after 30 days, consecutively, we still struggle to find 40 hours. Some of us can do it in a matter of 2 or 3, and not that that's healthy either. Saying that to say that let's be productive, not just only in our endeavors and actions, but let's make sure our words are encouraging and nurturing. Let us be willing to stand in the gap and support each other. Let us appreciate that if we're going to take up the mantle, we'll be willing to not just hold it in good safekeeping, but to treasure it and to pass it on so that the next generation can build on a strong foundation. I'm grateful to the musical choices that Miss Susan has put on the cards. And she reminds me that it seems like great minds think alike, because I seemingly, as she shared, had some of the same suggestions. Maybe that's a good thing, huh? So if you like the songs, you can give her a credit. And she says to share with you. It's all duets. So I got a couple. If you know my friend, give her a call and say, hey, listen, this was for you. If you know my friend, give him a call and say, hey, that's not for you. I'm just teasing. Why I share that is that music can be soothing to the soul. It can make your mind relax. So if you have a little time to enjoy a little siesta, swinging in your hammock under the coconut tree as I used to do, hey, just for listening to Radio Cayman. Early morning gives you the praise, late night gives you the little jig, as it is when, we have the serenade on Saturday, the soca on a Friday. Whee! Every night, man, we got it. So, to JJ and all the rest of the team, we like it. Alright, so we missed Joel. We welcome him back when he returns. We got Paul and Doc. We got Lynn. We got it all. Alright, the next song, it's going to be a good song. The one after gets even better. Bocelli with Dion sings a song that is not just prayerful, but it's a one that should soothe the soul, as all the songs will do. Join us tomorrow for more Talk Today after the midday news, but please start it off right with Mr. Art as he welcomes you to be a part of For the Record. Be blessed, my friends.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. And Cayman Airways, call them on 949-2311 to book your nonstop flights to Los Angeles and Panama. And Digicel, Cayman's bigger, better network.
You are listening to Radio Cayman, the voice